Hi everyone, it's Justin and Matt from BRRRRRM Australia. We're here for another Two Dads episode. Matt, a couple of weeks ago we had the pleasure of actually testing the Mazda MX-5 Roadster, didn't we?
Yeah, that was great fun.
It was a sensational little car to drive, but
Yeah.
I think from a family-friendly standpoint, a little bit impractical, being a two-seater.
It surely was.
Yeah?
It was a selfish car.
It was, okay. But I think if we could have that car and it was practical, no-brainer, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
So what I think we're going to have a look at today is, can an SUV be as fun to drive as a sports car? Now, we've got here today a Mazda CX-5, which comes from the same Mazda family. Mazdas have this thing that they call zoom zoom. They impart the feeling of sportiness in all the cars they drive. Now, what I guess we want to know is that true? As an MX-5, can it be as fun to drive? I mean, a CX-5, can it be as fun to drive as an MX-5?
Yeah.
Yeah. The CX-5 is definitely ticks all the boxes for practicality. It's a best-selling SUV car in Australia. Very practical, plenty of room. But is it as fun as an MX-5? What do you think?
It will, if it can pull that off and put a smile on the face, then they've done extremely well.
Yeah.
I mean, it would defy logic to be able to do that, but I reckon they've got a good chance of doing it. They've got a good design philosophy, and they've got great engineers obviously working for them, so it'd be really interesting to see if it's good enough to do that.
Yeah, you might be able to get the best of both worlds.
If that's the case, then I think they've done an extremely good job. So looking forward to seeing what it really is like behind the wheel.
Yeah.
Here we go. That's better. Okay, the steering wheel is nice. It's a little bit bigger than the MX-5.
The instrument panel's the same as the MX-5, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very familiar. Steering's light on slow speeds. Let's go left.
This particular car, Matt's a diesel. It's the 2.2 SkyActiv D, 129 kilowatts. It's got a torque figure in the 400s.
I could feel that.
Yeah.
Acceleration's brisk.
But I think the best part about it, it's relatively quiet. It's not like an old diesel where you hear that dack, dack, dack all the time.
Yeah.
It's actually quite refined.
I wouldn't have picked it was a diesel from the sound output that made on idle. That torque's nice as well.
And it also comes in the 2.5 petrol version, 4-cylinder, SkyActiv gasoline engine. And the base models come with a 2-litre SkyActiv engine, where the base model actually is available in a manual as well, 6-speed manual.
Oh, okay, that could be quite fun.
Could be interesting, that car.
But I like the steering. It feels sporty.
Yeah, actually.
From behind the wheel. The seating position's good.
Yep.
And visibility's good of the instrument cluster. It turns in pretty well.
Very predictable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like a huge car.
No. It sort of wraps itself around you, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
But on the practicality front, ticks all the boxes. It's got plenty of space. It's got plenty of boot space.
Yeah. Turn left up here. See what it's like throwing it into a corner. Oh yeah. That's more than capable.
I think it's not a sports car, but for what it is, the handling is actually really nice, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. It's progressive. There is a bit of body roll when you notice that when you go around corners, but then again, it's to do with the height of the car off the ground, I suppose.
Well, that's it. You can't defy physics too much unless you're Adrian Newey or some genius.
But this car here, I mean, being the diesel, I think the diesels and the 2.5 litre petrol models come with all-wheel drive, which is Mazda's all-wheel drive here. It's unlike the MX-5 in that it's predominantly front-wheel drive, and then when the car detects that it needs to send traction, it sends it back to the rear wheels and gives it a sort of 50-50 front and rear traction sort of thing for it. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I enjoy driving it so far, and it's like the MX-5. It's easy to drive.
Yeah.
It's intuitive. It really is. It's well engineered. And I really like the driving position. The seating position's great. It really, and these seats, I don't know, they've got it right. The seats are great.
You can understand why this car's so popular, isn't it?
Oh, for sure.
And the way that it's pitched in the market, starting from about 27,000 all the way up to this model, the Akera model, which is about 50,000. There's pretty much a model in that range for everyone's sort of budget.
Yes.
Yeah, just depending on how much money you want to spend on specifications.
Yeah. Not everyone needs all the aspects of this car.
No. I mean, primarily this car is going to be used as a practical car.
Yes.
Yeah, but if you're a mum or a dad that enjoys your driving, I think that you'd enjoy driving this car. It handles quite well. Like we mentioned before, it's got a bit of body roll, but again, it's something that is inherent with SUVs, I guess.
But I wouldn't, if I did a blind test on this, I would think
You'd crash the car.
True. That's true. That is true, which isn't ideal. But I wouldn't straight away pick that this is an SUV. If you put me behind the wheel, and
I agree with you. It's very car-like, isn't it? It's
is.
not. It doesn't feel like it's an SUV. It's car-like. And
as well, the brakes feel good. They're good enough to do the job that they need to.
Yeah. The ride quality is good.
Yeah.
It's actually running. This one's running on 19-inch wheels. And
Really?
The base models come with 17s, and then they go up in size.
Okay. Really, and it just doesn't feel like a car of the size that it is. I just don't know how they've done it.
The interesting point about this car, the previous model for the CX-5 was the CX-7 model, which was a very popular model for Mazda as well. And you know, anecdotally, I've heard from a lot of people when they look at the CX-5, they can't believe. I mean, it's actually smaller on the outside to the outgoing CX-7, but on the inside, it's actually larger. So they've done a bit of a Doctor Who TARDIS thing with it.
All credit to them.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I guess what we loved about that MX-5 was the way it handled, I suppose. It wasn't over endowed with power, but for what power it had, it actually put it to really good use, didn't it?
It surely did.
And you know, that goes to show you can actually have a car. It doesn't need to be, you know, super powered, but you can still have a lot of fun in the car. Now, you can tell this car has sort of been designed with the same philosophy in mind, hasn't it?
It has.
You know,
You can feel it in the chassis.
yeah. It's quite nimble in the way that it goes around corners.
Yeah. And I reckon
On a long trip, this car would actually be not only comfortable, but fun to drive.
Yeah, I reckon it'd be lots of fun.
Now, any negatives, Matt? Can you think of anything that you don't like?
You know, I'm genuinely struggling to think of any big flaws of this vehicle.
You know what? Me too. I've driven it over the last day and a bit, and I agree with you. There's nothing really I can think of that it does badly. Really, it's a good car.
I'd love to have the paddles, as you pointed out.
Yeah,
the paddles
maybe
on the
that's,
wheel.
Maybe that's something I'd prefer as well, just to give it a little bit more sportiness.
Yeah.
But you can actually flick it over into manual mode.
Oh,
In the
okay.
transmission, so you can actually change gears yourself.
Okay.
Okay, Matt, you've had a drive of the CX-5.
Yes.
What do you reckon?
I love it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I want one.
Okay, now the question that we originally asked was, can an SUV be as fun to drive as a sports car? Now, comparing it, I know you can't compare it directly, I think, with an MX-5. I mean, there's too many differences there. One's a Roadster, one's an SUV.
Sure.
One's full-on rear-wheel drive, this one's all-wheel drive. But
Yeah.
is there a bit of MX-5 DNA in the CX-5, you think?
definitely inherent in this car. There are definite crossover features between the two.
Yeah.
100%. It gives you that nice sporty feel. It's got a great seating position considering it's
what
a
it is. Considering what it is,
taller
yeah.
car.
Yeah.
You still feel like you're in a sporty style car.
Yep.
But then when you look from the outside, it does defy logic.
I know.
It shouldn't do what it does, but it does.
It's very car-like to drive, but it's got the practicality of an SUV, which is brilliant.
I don't know how they've done it, but they've done it well.
Yeah,
they really have.
I agree.
And it's, again, I enjoyed driving it. It put a smile on my face. And some of those roads that you think of when you have good memories in the sporty cars that you may have had earlier on in your life, I reckon you could get a similar experience.
You could make some memories in one of these, couldn't you?
Exactly right. I don't know how, but they've done it.
Yeah.
It's aligned well with the MX-5.
Now,
it really has.
Do you think this is unique to the CX-5, or you've driven other SUVs and things like that?
Yeah, well, I've sort of got one in the family car.
Yeah.
And this is so much more dynamic to drive. The steering, the feel, it's a cut above.
It's fun.
It is.
Yeah, what it boils down to, it's fun.
It's fun. Exactly right.
It is. And we struggled to find any real, standout negatives about the car. It's quiet.
The torque
is really good. Yeah. Initially when you take off in the diesel, you can hear the car, but once you're on the road, you don't really hear it, do you?
No, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
And you still get that nice feedback through the steering wheel.
Yeah.
It feels smaller than it is.
Yeah. It shrinks itself around you, doesn't it?
Exactly right.
Yeah. No, I think they've done a great job with this car.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I really do.
They have done a great job. So, last question, as we always ask now: if you own one of these cars, would you look back at it when you park it?
Yes. Yeah, I would.
Yeah. Styling's up to scratch.
Styling, it is great.
Yeah.
It really is.
I agree. Actually, for the functionality of the car, it's a good looking car.
It is.
It's a really good looking car. So
it's a win.
I think for everyone out there, if you're a mum or a dad and you enjoy your driving and you need something practical,
this is it.
Check one of these out. They're actually really good.
Definitely worth a look and definitely worth a drive.
Yeah. So just like to put out a big thank you to our friends at AMR Mazda at Petersham for the loan of the CX-5. And we're hoping you're enjoying our videos, and we'll catch you next time. See you later.
See ya.